An update on crime, road work, and the demographics of the Cape. These stories and more on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Tuesday, June 4th, 2013. I'm Sarah Colvin. This morning, the Cape Cod Young Professionals Organization handed out $15,000 in scholarships to aspiring young Cape Codders. Career goals of the scholarship recipients range from a doctorate degree to a plan to create barber services for the elderly. The second annual Cape Cod Young Professionals Community Breakfast was held this morning at the Cape Cod Resort in Hyannis. A jury returns a verdict of not guilty in the trial for Barnstable resident Ilya Zinoff. Chief of Police Paul McDonald said Zinoff is known to law enforcement agencies across the Cape.
Suspect in many shootings across the Cape. This past shooting, he was found not guilty. He shot 3 individuals at 72 Nautical Way back in 2009. We knew he did it. We just have to do a better job presenting our case next time. However, even though he's found not guilty, he is still under house arrest. He is still being held on $200,000 cash bail because he's under indictment for another shooting which happened 2 years ago on Center Street in front of Ying's restaurant.
Chief McDonald says witness testimony or lack thereof played a large role in this trial.
Mr. Mullins was our main witness. He was the individual that was shot 8 times. There were 2 other individuals that were shot also, Amir Bear and Chris Newell. Now, the original night when it originally happened, we had 0 cooperation. All 3 individuals said they had no idea who shot them, even though it was shot basically at point-blank range. As the months went by, Mr. Mullins changed the story and then gave us a full statement, taped interview about who did it, and he positively ID'd Zinoff. The other 2, however, when they testified in court, they still said, even though it was point blank, they could not identify Mr. Zinoff. So, and then when it comes down to the trial, who do you believe, Mr. Mullins or the other 2 individuals? And all 3 of them have lengthy criminal histories.
But the chief said despite the not guilty verdict, Zinoff is not yet out of the woods.
There are 2 other major cases pending. It's depending on the schedule of the Superior Court. They are both Superior Court cases. We do expect them to be held sometime within next year, but it could be as far as 18 months out before both these cases are adjudicated. So we still have time to continue with the cases.
A bail reduction hearing was held after the trial.
Right after he was found not guilty for this past shooting, they had a bail reduction hearing over in Superior Court, and of course our officers were there. They again testified, and the judge did agree that he still should be held, so he kept the same bail. Same bail is $200,000 with a GPS, a tracking system, and he's under house arrest, and he can only leave the house for a doctor's appointment or to confer with his attorney or to go to court.
Zinoff is being held on house arrest on $200,000 bail. Well, the Barnstable County Department of Human Services recently issued a large report chronicling the demographics and socioeconomic landscape of Barnstable County. Senator Dan Wolf commented on the report on this morning's edition of Barnstable This Morning.
I think it's a great point you make, because really what you're saying is instead of fighting a trend, why don't we learn how to make opportunities out of the trend? We do have an aging demographic. That means a lot of things. It means that generally these are folks on fixed income, which in this day and age makes that really challenging. But all of the elder services, from health care to other elder services, are real opportunities on the Cape for our youth. I have 3 daughters. None of them live here right now, but all of them, I think, would hope to move back here. And, that really drives what we want to look at as far as economic development and growth in our economy here. This report gets into some pretty stark economic realities. And I will tell you, up at the State House, everybody believes that the Cape is wealthy and that the people here are all rich waiting for the next tourist to come down and dump their money on them. And when you look at this report, it's kind of stark, because the average incomes here on the Cape are lower than the rest of the state on average. And our percentage of people living in poverty, either below the poverty line or even below the 2 times poverty line, is kind of stark. And that trend has really gotten worse in the last 10 years and through the recession. So we have our economic challenges here, and at the same time we have our opportunities for where we want to see growth.
Wolf says the Cape presents some unique challenges for those who desire to make a life here.
Well, when you have property values that are high and job opportunities that are relatively low relative to earning opportunity, that is about as hostile an environment as you could have for young families who are starting up, because when you're starting a family, your income's relatively low. And property values on the Cape, I think we're blessed to live in a place where land is desirable and precious, but we have to make sure that we're accommodating those for whom land is not attainable because of the price of it. And that's why we have such good housing authorities in every town. We have great organizations on the Cape like the Housing Assistance Corporation that really are focused now on how do we make it affordable to live on the Cape if you're a young family, because balance is so important, as you know. We need kids for our schools.
Right, exactly.
We need to support the schools, and then entry-level jobs are really important, but we just have to make sure people can live here.
That report was just recently issued, but Wolf is already ready for what comes next.
We've actually boiled it down to a 2 or 3 page summary that really captures both the demographic but also the economic picture here, and just continuing to get the word out through the agencies. On Thursday, I'm actually doing a Cape-wide tour with the Secretary of Education. Matt Malone is going to be down, and we're going to be at Barnstable and I think at BY. And, bringing state officials down and having the opportunity to talk to them for a day is part of the education process that I think will really do well for us down here on the Cape. And Secretary of Environment and Energy has been down here a lot. Secretary of Labor, I was just with her last night. So, we've just got to keep working to get the word out about what's special about Barnstable, but also what our challenges are as well.
Well, the sun may be out now, but yesterday's rain made for some tricky driving in some areas of town. Director of Public Works Dan Santos says the phone in his office was ringing off the hook.
We got an enormous amount of phone calls. I don't have an exact number, but I know sitting in my office I can hear the phone calls coming in out in the outer office there, and they were just all day long. And interesting to note about the rain is that there was some really torrential rain, a deluge, and when that happens, a lot of these systems just can't keep up with that amount of rain. They're really not designed for the kind of rain that we got in a short period of time. So they do get backed up. They do cause some large puddles, but they eventually go down. Just it may take a little longer, but we were out and about yesterday on the real deep, bad problem puddles where there were safety issues, pumping them down and moving that water out of there, cleaning away debris from the catch basins in order to let them operate the way they should.
And as we get into the heart of the season here on the Cape, Santos says spring roadwork projects are wrapping up.
Really, this time of year, we're wrapping up for the spring season, our road work, because we don't work, because we have a policy of not working in the summer. We don't want to impact the flow of traffic in this area, which gets a huge amount of tourism and just folks that are part-time residents. But over at on Bursa's Way and High School Road Extension, we've had a multi-year project to reconstruct that road from 28 right down to Main Street. And the last portion of that is the area between the Rotary at the Youth and Community Center and Main Street, which, if you've been over there recently, you'll notice there's a lot of utility work going on. And the last part of that is moving the utility poles and the lines to new poles so that we can complete our paving. The only thing that remains there is the final paving and markings, and we're going to do that this fall. And NSTAR is basically going to finish that up hopefully fairly shortly with the utility moving. Similar situation on Great Marsh Road. Last year we did a reconstruction there, and once again we had to wait for the utility companies to move their poles, which they've just completed, and starting tomorrow we'll be finishing the paving work on Great Marsh Road to finish up that project.
The Stewart's Creek Culvert project is expected to finish this month. You can stay up to date by visiting the town's website at town.barnstable.ma.us. With Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin.